Hi there guys. It's the old man's back in the shop. Yes, it's hot. I've pretty much done bugger all out here, and this is really just a quick intro. I'm sharing a short video that a friend of mine, Arthur, made. He's down in Arizona, Glendale if I remember, and he runs a business, FM3 Design and FM3 Systems. He does a lot of aluminum welding, and I think sometime or other he's got some video material for me regarding one of his machines. I forget which. Anyway, this is just a short piece where he is describing the installation of a platform that he makes. This one's Ford Transit Connect, and he just explains how the unit's installed. So he fixes some support sections, front and rear, and then the platform goes in, and then a plywood shelf. Seeing as I haven't put anything out for ages, I thought I'd just share this one. Might be of interest to a few folks, and well, we'll see what comes next. probably not very much for the time being. Gotta say, thoroughly enjoyed the streaming video from the bash. Kudos to Stan for setting it all up and his helpers, and a big thanks to Tom Zelikman doing the streaming video. Absolutely brilliant. So much as I'd like to have been there, it was very good to share the streaming video. Anyway, that's enough waffle. So here's Arthur just describing the setting up of installation of this shelf unit. Alright, see you sometime, hopefully. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Today, we're discussing the horizontal shelf we make for the Ford Transit Connect and some other vans also. So today our challenge is going to be how to install this shelf in the Ford Transit van. I realize it's already installed. What we're going to do is remove one side of it so you can get an idea of how we're going to go ahead and install this correctly. So hang on, we'll be right back. We're back again now. I'd like to discuss what we have to do to match up these holes here. Now there will be screws in your van when you get it from the factory, and they are what they call a Torx wrench fitting, and the socket looks like this for it. It's a size T30, so you'll need a size T30 Torx to remove the factory bolts. Now once we have the bolts out, it's real simple. I supply all new bolts, and you just simply take the new bolts and apart, put it in place, get all the bolts started, now it's a very metric bolt, because it is a metric thread that you have to use. So I'm going to use a 10mm socket that will go ahead and tighten these bolts up. They're very well aligned, so simply just tighten them up is all we have to do. You want them good and snug, and you can feel when they kind of tighten up and go to ground zero, or what we call when metal goes to metal. And you can feel that. That's all you want to do is take it to that point. You don't want to go any further than that, because you'll actually can strip out the bolt. So taking this very carefully like this is how we're going to do this. And that's all it takes to put in the back mount. You have one on each side to do. That's pretty quick. Okay, now we're going to talk about the next part of the van, which happens to be the front mount, and in that we have an unusual thing we need to do with the Ford Connect Transit van, and that is we have to use what's called a Riff Nut. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second, and I'll show you where it goes. Now we're talking about the Riff Nut. Now Riv Nuts are kind of real fun. They're kind of like a pop rivet, but they don't pop. But what they do is they actually have threads in them and fit in a hole. Now your Ford Transit van will come with an empty hole here. And to utilize the big bolt and the little bolt, this will be American thread, this will be metric. But it's really interesting because this is 17 millimeter. You can use a 3/4 inch wrench on it. This is going to be 5/16, so you use a 1/2 inch wrench. But let me show you what the Rev Nut is. In your kit will come the Rev Nut and the installer tool. Now this is kind of a homemade installer tool, but it works pretty good. And let me show you. When you clamp it and you turn this, it starts to swell out the Rev Nut, and notice it's starting to swell, and it'll just tighten right up after you put it in the hole, and just tighten it up and come up to where it gets really, really tight, and it'll be really kind of amazing. It just gets tighter and tighter. As you can see, it swells itself out, so it makes a flange area around the bolt hole, so it does not have to be involved with threading or anything else, and it does not hurt the van to put the Rev Nut in. So this will come in your kit. That's what you do with the Rev Nut. Put it in there and tighten up the two things. Now once it's in, you just undo the Rev Nut and then take the bolt out. And you want to tighten this up good and snug, really good and tight. And so your Rev Nut will be in there like that, just like that one is. And you keep your little tool so you can put the one in on the other side, and that's your little tool that comes in your kit along with the Rev Nuts. Now once you have that up there, in the kit will also be the new bolts for the front. Notice you're going to have a metric bolt, and it comes with a washer for it, and there's a little locking washer that goes underneath it. Please notice the little locking washer. Now when we put this in, this comes in here, slides in, and just put the bolt in. And it threads in real easily. Having the right bolts and stuff definitely helps. And your little 1/2 inch bolt, 5/16, 1/2 inch head, and again washer and the other, just same as the other. And you look there, you can see the little gold Rev Nut going in, and you put that in there and thread it in and run it in. Now again, we're going to tighten this up about the same as we did the ones in the back. Now the bigger bolt will take a little more torque, and what those well, because this is a bigger bolt. And just basically just tighten it down, and then do the little one, which happens to be 1/2 inch. And mind you, I am cheating because I'm using sockets, because that's just me. And just tighten this down good and snug, about like the back end a little bit, and then the top bolt, finish tightening it up. And now all you have to do is put the rails in, and you've installed your horizontal shelf. We'll put the railings in a second. Down to putting in what we call the plywood supports, and they're pretty straightforward. Notice that each end is a little different. One has got a narrow gap, and one has a wide gap. The wide gap is so that you can actually go in and fit into the slot over here, and then come over and then slide in the slot here and just lock it down. And that's how it works. Now when you go to take it out, when you don't need the shelf and you need a little more room, so like you could put a pallet or something like that in the back of the truck, basically you lift this up, lift that up, slide it over, and it comes right out. And of course you can store it along with the plywood. So it makes it really handy to take this shelf in and out quickly. Now mind you, this leaves you full width of room, because this doesn't stack out any further than what the wheel wells do. So how you can use the van is normal as well as second shelf. So that's pretty nice. So anyway, and all the shelf and all of them fit just straightforward. Slide in, slide over, lock down, and it's done. And you'll need to buy your own plywood and put in. Go to your local home improvement store, find a piece of plywood, measure it to fit, cut it, drop it in. All the vans have different size plywood requirements. My recommendation is nothing less than a 1/2 inch thick plywood. Now, to prevent rattling of the plywood, you want to take and use foam insulation like you use around a window or a door. Put it on the bottom of plywood so it goes down against here. Don't put it on the metal because it tends to not, you know, when you get the plywood, get it all nastied up and you want to get rid of it, you want to get rid of the foam too. So put the foam on the plywood and it'll sit down in here and it won't rattle and it'll be nice and quiet. And that's the straightforward of the FM3 Design second shelf for the Ford Transit Connect. Thank you.